Yo, welcome back. Grindhouse podcast. We're back another time, man. Another week.
Yeah.
Nice hat for another week.
Hey, appreciate it. That's the grind. That's the grind.
Yeah. I think before we get started, man, let's talk about your merchandise, man. Like I said, I think that's important too. It's an important part of what we're doing and stuff like that, man. How do you get to the merchandise side of this?
Oh man, families and kids like, hey, coach, we want to represent Grindhouse. So it was like, for me, it was like, okay, well, let me find somebody to make the gear for us. And we went from hoodies and backpacks, and we got sweats coming out. We got more hoodies coming out this winter, and we're gonna do some long sleeves, some sweaters, and hey, it's gonna be pretty solid, man. So we just having fun with it. You know, what the parents and what the kids ask for, I give them. You know, because it's the community. You know, we're all part of the same community, and the goal is to, let them represent, Grindhouse, but also, let them represent something positive in the community, which is Grindhouse. So I appreciate it.
Which is cool. I know how much, I want to call it free marketing, but the piece of wearing what you own.
Yeah,
wearing, having that part out there. So
all day long, I wear this all day long. Every episode I can have it on. And it'd be all different T-shirts, so all different brands. So
well, I tell you what, before we make sure that we put in the show notes and things like that where people can find your merchandise and all that good stuff as well. So we'll get to that in due time. So, but you brought up something as far as like parents and what knowing exactly what you represent and stuff like that. So when it comes to parents, what is it that you need parents to know when it comes to training? Like, what is it that if you were bringing your child out for the first time and they had questions, what's the standard of what you want these parents to know about what training is and what's it for?
Oh man, it's easy. When we're talking about parents just want their kid to train. They don't understand the process of the training or anything like that. I think they just want their kid to be able to compete for a position, just get better at what they do. Though the goal for me is to get the parent to understand the whole concept behind it. First, I always talk about family because family is number one to me. So when I get a parent inside the facility and they see what I do for us, either agility drills or, foot speed drills or, explosive drills, jumping drills, whatever it may be, the goal for me for the parents to understand that, first off, I'm here for their kid. Like the goal for their kid is to be the greatest athlete that they can be. So when you're dealing with parents, and I deal with a lot of different parents, so they understand that's one of the key concepts behind it is family-based business that works with kids, and that's what I usually kind of focus on. And then from there, the training part is easy. I developed your son, so hey, if I developed your son, I could develop anybody in this country.
Let's see, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that here in a second, because what I feel a lot of, and I'm gonna say this from a parent standpoint of, Coach Washington, I want you to train my kid because I want him to go to college for free and be a D1 athlete. That's so. Now let's ask that same question again. Parents are coming out here and they want their child trained, and they have these expectations of my child should be a D1 athlete because he's trained with you. How do you set those boundaries? How do you curb those expectations? How do you make parents understand that from day one to day 1,000, that's where it's gonna take time.
All right, we call it being. First of all, we got to be consistent. First off, like I tell everybody, if you look at my plans or whatever, I need to either have your kids twice a week or 3 times a week. That's the number one thing. Then the parent has to understand that sometimes the kid is not going to want to do it. right? At the beginning, it's usually the kid don't want to do it, the parents pushing the kid. So after you get through that process, the kid falls in love with the training, right? So the kid falls in love with the training. The parent is now being pulled to bring the kid the training now. So it becomes an easier process now because the kid wants it even more. So the goal is about being consistent. You know, you talk about the 21 days of being consistent, doing the same thing over and over again. That's what I kind of look at to kind of build this up, right? 21 days of consistency of training. From there, the kid loves it, even though it's hard, but they kind of start seeing the development, start to see things change, see them getting a little faster, a little quicker, and those things. And then from there, we kind of we built a relationship. Now the parents trust, like, dang, I listen to Coach Washington. He's consistent. He likes to work out. He's getting bigger. He's getting stronger. He's getting faster. He's doing all the things that he needs to do, or she's doing all the things she needs to do to become a better athlete. And that's the goal. That's when I talk about sports, that's, hey, if you're not consistent and you think you're just going to get it and go D1, like we're talking about D1. These coaches are making millions of dollars, and they're not going to bring on a kid that's not consistent in anything.
D1 coaches ain't going to train your kid to do nothing. Let's peel it all the way down. That's what it is.
That's cool.
D1 coaches aren't going to. They're not going to teach you how to play football.
No.
So let's peel back that onion. You talked about training my son, training your son. We're not going to mention any other athletes and stuff like that. We haven't talked to their parents about it and stuff like that.
Correct.
But we know there are other D1 athletes that we've trained, and I'm going to say we because from the beginning. It was we were out there training these kids because we can let's talk about that a little bit. Like, hey, we started here at the beginning. We need to make sure that, hey, our kids got the attention that they need. So let's start here.
What year are we going to? I mean,
2006. Let's go 2016.
2016.
Beginning the Grindhouse. Real
really
monetizing grind. I'm gonna say it out loud because at the end of the day, it's a business. It's still a business. Yeah. I don't want people to feel like, oh, this is just what you do for fun or something that you do. You change this into a business that can support your family.
Yeah.
So let's start there with our own kids.
Let's talk 2016 when we started with our own kids. It was like, I think it was just me and you just out there in the field, like we working the kids. And I knew a lot of people wanted me to train the kids, but I was like, we just want to have fun. We want our kids to go D1. That was our goal. We're gonna bust their butt and we're gonna just train them. But I've always been training. So let's take it all the way back to 2002, 2003 when I started training. I was working with athletes back in St. Louis. But when I came here in 2014 and when I met you in 2015 and we really started taking it to that next level because we both were working real jobs and had real life. We were lifing at the time. So at that time, when we were training, we were doing things that was NFL level training. And a lot of people can go get a ladder and some cones and some of that stuff and train.
That we were doing NFL training with 11-year-olds.
Yeah,
so let's make sure we say that part.
So we were doing NFL training with 11-year-olds, but we both knew, through, especially with me playing, and at that time I had a lot of other buddies still playing in NFL. Through that journey, we knew that what we needed to do to get those younger athletes out on the field. And then one day I think it was like in the summertime, and I want to say it was like 35 kids out sitting there ready to get trained. And I'm like, oh shoot, like I didn't plan for this one. Like how do we manage this 35 kids that we about to train? But from there, it just kind of showed you, and the parents were great with us, and they wanted us to work with their kids, and our community supported us, and that made that journey a little bit more, like realistic for me, because I'm like, man, I can do this full time. You telling me I can do this full time and I can make an impact on my community, but also make an impact on these young athletes' lives. So let's do this. Let's try to figure it out. Let me figure it out. At the time I still was working a full-time job. I think I had another business going at the same time, and I was busy as heck, man. But at the end of the day, I was like, I want this for these young athletes, and we're gonna make it work. And I went full-time 2019.
About 2019.
2019 went full time. So
we're about to keep pulling this onion back. Though.
He want to go deep. He want to go deep. Okay,
because
talk to me.
We just talked about parents and the expectations that, hey, I want my kid to go to college for free. Hey, I want my kid to be a D1 athlete. Hey, I want this for my child because again, they see the results that your son had. They see the results that my son had. But do they know the amount of time that it took to get those
No,
results?
no.
So let's talk about that part.
Okay, let's talk about the 40 hours a week, like a full-time job, huh? Like these young men, first they go to school, go train at the school, and do their workout at the school. Then after that, they come work out with us, and then
I'm about to stop you. I'm only going to stop because I want to make sure we get a time frame. So you say we stop at the school. Let's say,
soon school let out. So
let's start the summertime. So we talk about
summertime.
7 a.m. to 10 p.m. 10 a.m. Excuse me.
So 7 to 7 a.m. to about 10 a.m. That's when the school finished up. So then we'd go hit it from 10 to 12, right about 10:15 to 12 something.
Right.
We give them a couple hours off. Then we'd go back and do some technical stuff with them. And then at 6 o'clock, we started up, and then we'd go do some hill work or some sand pit training or up until about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night.
So so you're saying that we will work, let's say 4 hours from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's 3 hours.
3 hours, yeah.
So we'll do an additional 2 hours from there from about 10:30 to about 12:30.
Correct.
So you're looking at what?
5
hours.
Yep. And then
we'll do another 2.5 hours, 2 hours in the evening from 6 to 8. So you're looking at 7.5 hours of just training.
Yeah.
4 to 5 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just for
and you go crazy as a dad, I was like, okay, is this too much? And I get a lot of feedback from a lot of my people that I knew that I told them, hey, yeah, we put in 40 hours of work every week, but the cool thing about it is that they didn't understand the concept behind it. They think they can go out there and do it an hour, 2 hours a day, or just 2 weeks a week, and it's still good for the athlete. Let's not get this messed up, right? We kind of keep it into this box of understanding sports and training. It has to be a balance. So at that time with our boys, we knew that we were behind. So when we're behind, we have to put in more time to get caught up. We didn't even mention when they were playing, they just finished middle school football and played select football right after that too. Yeah. So what we were doing, we were creating, and not just against any kind of talent. We're talking about the top tier talent, local top tier talent in town. And then
there were probably 12 D1 guys on their team.
Yeah. And they're all playing college ball right now. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at this big picture of sports, we're trying to put them in the best position ever. Like a lot of the kids that leave and come out of Grindhouse and go to all these different schools because nobody knowing that they're putting in time, not just with Grindhouse, but they're putting in time with personal trainers like me that specialize in sports. Because most people say, okay, well, my son got Coach Washington and he goes to school. Now, you got to ask yourself, is that good training still, or is that good enough for my kid? Now, depending on development and depending on where they're at that moment, they're going to depend on the whole schematics of the kids wherever he's going, right? So the goal for us is, okay, is he ready for college? Let's see. Does he evaluate their talent? Does he have the height? Does he have the weight? Do he have the speed? And all of those factors kind of come into play when you're looking at a D1 athlete. And every athlete that you train is not going to be a D1 athlete. And every kid that I train is not going to be a D1 athlete. But as long as we can get some D1 athletes out of the bunch, but also if they get in school paid for free, that's where we're at. That's what I like to see.
So how do you table that expectation, knowing that you have trained D1 athletes? You have kids that, the proof is there that we put the work in and things like that. Now, you may have kids who will put that same amount of work in and they're not getting, quote unquote, recruited as a D1 athlete. So how do you table that parent's expectation knowing that this is still working? Because at the end of the day, there still has to be some natural ability when it comes to what's going on. There has to be some natural talent. So how do you have those tough conversations when that kid's not getting the D1 offers and things like that?
Well, I call it realistic. Just being realistic. Everybody's not going to go D1. Just kind of having that first conversation with that parent, saying, hey, every kid is not going to go D1, and I don't expect every kid to go D1. My goal as a trainer is to get kids to college. I never said every kid was going to go to college. Go D1 college. I said, hey, if we can get you a partial, I want to say a couple kids that I have right now, I told their parents, I went to their house, had to sit down and say, hey, I don't think your son's going to have an opportunity to go play D1 ball, but we're going to be able to go to school. And that kid got, I want to say $28,000, $30,000. No, sorry, not 20 or 30. No, he got $8,000 a year to go to school. So overall, I think he paid what $32,000 total for school. That's you won. Like it doesn't matter as long as you can go to school, get a great education, come back, find a working, a great job in corporate America or wherever. You win that game because the goal. Most people leaving college owing $176,000-$200,000 to go to school and they can't afford it. And if you can't afford it and you going to school, now you're playing this game called the rat race. And now you got to pay bills. You're working just to pay bills. And that's not fair to young women and young men who bust their tail to play a sport to get to where they're trying to go. Hey, they deserve it. So if they got to pay, that's it, $32,000 and go to college for 4 years, hey, they win all day long.
So let's peel back even further, because as much as we're talking about, people going to school and parents and things like that, there's another side of this when it comes to that we brought up already. We talked about they're going to working out their high school, and that high school coach saying, "Hey, this is enough. I can get you. You don't need to go work out with an outside trainer in order to get to college because they don't know what we're doing here at the school." So, tell me why high school coaches hate outside trainers.
Honestly, it's a lot of good trainers out there, but also it's a lot of trainers that just don't know what they're doing. But you also got old school coaches that just think their system and their way is the way. And I mean, records prove that sometimes it's not your way. You got to understand that some athletes are driven to be great, and if you cannot get that athlete to that level, that athlete has to get outside training. And if you got a receiver coach that just finished college that never played receiver, what's the chances of that kid going to college, especially a connection? Most of these trainers have connections, like D1 top tier connections, Michigan State, Illinois, Iowa State, Iowa. Like you gotta be able to connect those kids with people instead of just going to a database and saying, "Hey, I'm going to upload these kids to this database and we're going to shoot it out and cross our fingers that this kid get a look." Like that's not fair to the athlete, So when you have connections and you build relationships with different recruiters and different coaches, now you have a portal of athletes that you can take and send around the world and let them experience what the same thing you experienced.
So let me ask you this question then. How can you, as a trainer, because at the end of the day, I feel that high school coaches they're ego driven, just like every other coach. Mm-hmm. They're hey, what I do is going to be best for the kid, mm-hmm. and in all actuality, it's only best for the program. But of course, they feel like if the program's winning, then we'll do well. We both experienced in the past a certain high school coach who didn't want recruitment to happen with our kids because they felt it was too early.
Yeah.
And so how do you, as a trainer, help bridge that gap so you can, with those high school coaches, what are you doing to get closer with those coaches to help with the kids' development and the recruiting aspect?
I just say build a relationship, right? The goal for me was at the beginning was to build a relationship with the coaches in the community to understand that, hey, I am not going to coach that kid for that position. I'm going to coach that kid skill set, details, hand placement, footwork, all of those things that's going to help that kid become the best athlete he can be for your program. Now, if you saying, hey, I want this guy to run upfield 5 or 6 yards and you leave that cutback lane on the backside, I have nothing to do with that. But my goal is to teach that kid the technicals that he needs so when he go to football camps, he can get seen, he can stand out. Or if she goes and go a workout at a volleyball camp and her lateral movement and her explosiveness is working and she's jumping higher and getting her hands on the ball and spiking the ball in her face. Like those are the things that I kind of pat myself on the back for, because what I do well is that I am not a threat to a coach. It's like we should never be looked upon as a threat to a coach. We should be looked upon as the coach only have a certain specific amount of time to be able to work with these young athletes. Now that puts us in a position to be able to work with these athletes outside of the coaching, and to bring that all together, to bridge that gap with coaches and trainers, is you find the best trainers in your community that you can partner with the things that you cannot do during that time. Not saying you got to force the kids to your program, but just leave that open door to give that kid options to be able to train with outside sources that can help develop and put them in the best position ever, because it's not just going to put that kid in the best position, it's going to put that high school in the best position.
And of course, I know we've seen that through that winning formula kind of go on with some of the schools that are in our area, where we got certain schools where before we really got our hands on kids, the winning wasn't happening.
Correct.
Whereas we've helped with that winning formula with certain schools. And got other schools who, they still want to do things the old way, and that's fine. Yeah. There's nothing we can do about that. We're going to help the kids who still come out. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. So let me ask you this question, because I think that this is important too. When is it too early for a kid to start? When do you feel like, all right, then maybe you may have came too late? I'm gonna still help you.
Okay.
But maybe because that's a real thing too.
Yeah, I can say if your kid is young, right, and your kid is immature, right. So if your kid cannot follow directions, right. Some kids can follow directions, some kids can't follow direction. If you know your kid is following direction and kind of want this, and they want to be better, and they're driven to be great, you the parent, I will be able to identify that at that first, second, third, or fourth session, right? So you give me the opportunity to kind of identify and say, okay, this kid really wants it. This kid on a whole different level. And I can go down the name of little kids that I've trained that I've seen that in. But then sometimes I can get a kid that just want to play around and just have fun. And I'll tell a parent, one thing about me, I'm not going to just take your money. I'm going to make sure that you understand the process behind training, but also one of the key things I'm going to give you is great advice, because if the kid is not willing to accept or understand what I'm teaching, then it's not a good fit, because that kid is not mentally ready for the training, and you will be able to tell it if you're a great trainer or not.
Okay.
And for my high school kids that are too old, shoot, man, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I think I'm a blessed guy, right? So when I'm working with young athletes, I remember one time in St. Louis, I was training a kid. I'm not gonna say his name, but I was training a kid in St. Louis. He came to me his senior year, and I was like, oh shoot, this is. I said to myself, this is too late to train a kid. This had to be about 16 years ago, right? Don't try to guess my age. I'm not going to tell you. 16 years ago. So I was working with this young athlete, and crazy part about it, we got a scholarship. We got a partial scholarship to go to college, and he took advantage of it. Like, man, I mean, he was already like elusive and quick. He just didn't know how to kind of fine tune his craft or his skills, his steps and movement. And I helped him get off the school, and he got a partial scholarship. And from there, he's in the business world right now, working somewhere. So had a good job, didn't have to pay too much to go to school. So kudos to you and your success, man. Because, hey, I was thinking in the back of my head that was too late. So you did it. You proved to everybody that you can do it. So yeah. I would say senior year. If you get junior,
beginning of senior year, or you talking about like the summer?
It was like right before senior year started, okay. Man. I want to say like that summer or so. So, and he had the opportunity to go. And like I said, your junior year, if you like the end that you're about to become a senior, and you you just finished football season, I feel that if you're a good trainer, you can get the kid ready, right after the season ended, and he realized that, or she realized that it wasn't a successful season for them. I think I can get them ready by that next year.
Well, that's always good to hear. So, I think we're gonna save it. We'll save a little bit off of that, because I think we're going to dive into the recruiting part on the next time we get together. But we're going to finish with one more rep, man.
Okay.
All right. So we talked about your training, and we talked about the different kids and the winning culture. Let's talk about the locker room culture that your training has helped with. So what do you feel that your training has done to help some of these high school locker rooms, and potentially some of the college locker rooms with the work ethic, having your son bring some of his athletes from his university down to come work with you, having guys that had already in college coming back and working with you. So what has that culture? I'm gonna call it a locker room culture, even though it's your training, it's what you do. But I'm thinking, I look at it as this is the locker room that's kind of going on. So how's that locker room culture affected what you do? How has it affected your business, and how does it affect you moving towards the future?
Okay, well, shoot, you got a lot of them in there, right? So let's start off with just the leadership skills, right? So one of the things I try to, for young athletes, I try to guide them in the right direction, which is leadership. Me being a good leader is going to help these young men and women become great leaders, right? Because their peers, they're kids, they're immature sometimes. They do things that you look at them like, what the heck you do that for? So the goal for me is to make sure that I'm creating good leaders in Grindhouse. The goal, good leaders, good, not just by vocal, but also by action. And when you got a young athlete that can go out and lead by vocally, but also leadership skill wise, it's easier for the team to kind of believe in that athlete, because not only is that kid going to go out there and dominate every week, but also their leadership skills in the classroom, their leadership skills while walking down the hallway or sitting at lunch. So when a kid looks up at another kid, if they think that they need to act a certain way, and that kid confronts that kid and say, "Hey, man, that's not how we act. That's not how Grindhouse kids work." That's showing the other kids on how to be in the locker room. So don't talk negative about another teammate. If you want a position, go take a position. Work harder. These are the things that we're creating in Grindhouse that I don't think a lot of other trainers are doing. My goal for my athletes is to provide a service to them that's not only going to affect them just during the season, but throughout their life.
That's word, man. Well, like I said, man, I'm glad that we were able to reach out, touch athletes that they always want to come back.
Right.
That's all. To me, that's the number one where I feel is that that's when you've affected people the most, is that they want to come back and work with you, no matter how hard the work is, no matter how hard you're pushing them, that they want to come back. So I commend you. I'm sure the city of Wiley commends you. I'm sure the state of Texas commends you. I know the University of Iowa commends you. So,
appreciate that.
All right, man. So let people know they can reach you on social media, man.
You go to the Grind ST on Instagram, on Twitter. You go to Facebook. You go to the Grindhouse Sports Training. Those are the social media kinds. I also think I got a TikTok account.
You dancing?
I don't know how to dance like that, man. But I have a TikTok account that you can kind of go to and kind of see some of the little footage that I post. But Instagram is my main source where you can kind of see the training aspect, but you also get to see all the kids that's going off to college in different places. And, it's a great place to be, while working with us, man. We're going to guide you in the right direction. Most of my athletes are fine individuals outside the field as well. So I'm blessed to have that as a trainer too as well. So appreciate it.
One more thing, what's your website as well?
Website, go www.thegrindhousesportstraining.com. Again, it's www.thegrindhousesportstraining.com. Have all my prices and things like that online.
Got merch too?
I got merch on Instagram. So you got to go to Instagram and DM me, and I can get you some merch.
We gonna get that. We get that rolling for you guys as well. So
appreciate it.
All right, man. We appreciate you guys for listening. Remember, no grind, no shine.
All right.